skin on. Ho echanos. Whoever hugs you, hugs me. And whoever hugs me, hugs the one who sent me. These instructions that Jesus gave were part of his missionary charge. And I think what he was saying, if I can put Wenda's words and Jesus' words together, was this: go and be God with skin on. Go and be like Jesus to your neighbors and your families and your friends. Go and be a little Christ, God with skin on. Of course, as you know, receiving like this is mutual. Wrap the newborn baby in the flannelette receiving blanket, pass the baby bundle to the new mom and dad. What happens? A three-way hug that looks like the Holy Family, with Mary looking down into the glowing face of baby Jesus, and Joseph wrapping them both in his arms, and the unseen God hovering around them all. A much older and wiser friend once taught me when my children were young. He said, the most important thing that you can ever do for your children is to love their mother. It took me a long time to begin to learn the beginning part of that lesson. For some of the things in my family life, too late, I'm afraid. Now, my little children only come a few times a year to visit, and I find that I love their mother more than ever. And the more that I love their mother, even though they're far away, the more I love them. Love really is about simple things, isn't it? Whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones because she is a disciple, truly I tell you, she will not lose her reward. The receiving blanket in the bib becomes a bib, and the bib becomes a placemat, and the placemat becomes a fancy tablecloth for Thanksgiving dinner, and the Thanksgiving dinner becomes a wedding banquet, and then you're loading up the truck and they're off to Beverly Hills. Nowhere near that holy rood, but hills nonetheless. In my case, the hills of St. John's, Newfoundland. You know, it's closer to Dublin from St. John's than it is to Saskatoon. The ups and downs of life, the hills, as we receive life as a gift from the one who sent me. So Jesus says, finding another way to offer the cup of cold water to his little ones. This saying that we have in the gospel is about hospitality. And then Jesus goes on to talk about rewards. What are the rewards of hospitality? I was struggling with sermon block yesterday. That wasn't just because it was Saturday. I'm quite used to writing my sermons on Saturday because I work during the week. And I just prayed for inspiration. Done all the research in the background. It was all laid out on the table, and nothing but a block was sitting there. And then on the table, my phone buzzed. Someone was texting me. Who was this? I had to ask. I couldn't recognize the number. It was one of those, 639? Is that our new area code? I think it is. 639-306 plus 333. Yeah, that's what it is. 639. So I had to ask him, who is this? Oh, he told me, I recognize it. This kid had become an adult. I had hired him for Bible camp some years ago, once, a long time, and now he was in my area applying for a job. Sure, come on over, I texted back. Still no inspiration. Lord, what's going on? Doorbell rings. Come on in. Would you like to have something to drink? Piece of leftover birthday cake, apple tort. Yum. I think there's some whipped cream for that. Some root beer, each his own, and some catching up and some reminiscing. We were fixing this moment of our reunion to the rocks in our divergent streams of life. It was getting time for him to move on. I could see his foot was moving on the floor. Do you need a water bottle as you walk to your next interview? And then as we're preparing to part, I sat down on a stool in the kitchen and I earnestly asked him to think about what he might want to hear in a sermon if he came to Good Shepherd tomorrow. No. Always works out that way, doesn't it? Then I realized as I sat back down at my laptop that in God's humorous kind of way, the Holy Spirit had indeed answered my plea. And not just in one act of inspiration, but had actually written the whole sermon. And at the same time, pulled back the veil on the reward that comes with hospitality. A simple joy of recognizing Jesus in his alien disguise, God with skin on, and my neighbor, my friend, my fellow believer, my brother, my sister, someone in need of a reference for a job. It is impossible to be hospitable to life without at the same time being hospitable to all the living. It is impossible to be hospitable to life, to receive this gift of life, without at the same time being hospitable to all the living. To receive the other is to receive life. And the reward is to find ourselves being caught up in the embrace of God, which is both God's embracing us and our reaching out to embrace God. And whenever we do that, whenever we reach out to embrace God, we catch the living in the net of our life. There's something in the middle. There's always something in the middle. What is it that makes it so difficult to embrace life and all the living? Jesus, in these sayings, names them and embraces them and then moves them to their rightful place, into the truth of his word under the cross. What is it that makes it so difficult for us to be God with skin on? What makes it so difficult to answer the doorbell on a Saturday afternoon or to go and ring one? Why does it get so complicated when we just want to welcome everyone? Well, first, there's the risk. Jesus' mission isn't about waiting at home for the doorbell to ring. It's about going, about inviting, about putting yourself out there, putting ourselves out there. It's about greeting people along the way and then finding that opportunity to introduce them to their mutual friend, Jesus. Whoever receives you makes it pretty clear who's got control of the situation, and it's not us. It's about being received, after all. They're the ones who get to say no. They're the ones who get to say, go away. They're the ones who get to shut the door. Jesus never shunned any door. His shadow darkens every door, and he stands there and he knocks until somebody answers. And I think that clarifies what the prophet's reward means. There are so many stories of the prophets in the Old Testament and a few in the New Testament also. The one that I was led to this week by the other lessons of the lectionary was a story from Jeremiah. Jeremiah's prophetic ministry was so unrewarding that not even he could fool himself into thinking that it was successful. Nobody wanted anything to do with him. Nobody wanted to hear anything he had to say. And that included even his own personal secretary, Baruch. Baruch took Jeremiah's letter to the king and gladly and quietly sat by while the king put Jeremiah's letter through what passed for the paper shredder in those days, the royal knife, slicing it off inch by inch and consigning it to the palace fireplace. But you see, God is quite practiced at repeating himself